We're back. We have Craig Snodgrass here from where, Craig? Virginia?
Yep,
Richmond,
Richmond.
Virginia. Richmond, Virginia. Craig, you were with us before, chemical engineer turned data guy turned data scientist. We had to cut you off because we were enjoying it so much. We have a time limit here, but you just reached the point where you were exiting financial services and you went into advertising. We'd like you to pick up the story as to what you found there. So that's how we met, everybody. I met Craig back at this company. He was several years ahead of me. And I know what I found when I started. Craig, I forget, you were employee number.
Oh gosh, yeah,
Come on,
yeah. It was
5,
definitely,
3, 10.
definitely double digits. Yeah, it was early. When I joined, you were able to see the entire company by standing up and looking around. There, it was fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
So you joined early stage. There probably wasn't too much basic data things going on due to where it was at in its stage. We know that company was called Cardlytics, and they subsequently launched on the New York Stock Exchange. So we know you're a millionaire. This is good to know. But we want insights as to what it was really like, and kind of what data things happened, what data science things did you see. So could you start from the beginning there and maybe pick some of the best uses of data science that you saw and any novel ones that you saw?
Yeah, when I joined Cardlytics and I understood the business model, I was like, oh, advertisers are going to fall over and want to give us money, right? Like this is such a smart channel. We used our we integrated with banks to go give rewards to go get people to go shop at individual merchants, right? Basically, it was an incentive to go get people to go shop somewhere. And we had the whole data. We had the whole closed loop. We knew who we were giving the ad to. We knew whether or not they activated the offer, but most importantly, we knew whether or not they converted and came inside the store. And I was like, well, this is perfect. And then when you show up at the advertiser, you just realize how complicated their world is. Again, everybody's asking for marketing dollars. Everybody's trying to put on something, and you actually had to fight and defend what it is we do. So the first one, not necessarily on the machine learning side, right? But the whole test versus control and showing the incremental value that our offers can provide, like that was just a baseline that we had to go do. But after a while, it still came back to there was limited resources. There's only so many marketing dollars to go spend. So a lot of advertisers are like, I love your program. Should I do 10,000, 100,000? Like, tell me how much I should be spending here. And I need to go defend to go out and go get it. And this is where we started to go use what we had access to was all your credit and debit card transactions, right? We knew where you were shopping, but not what you were buying inside the store. But we knew if you were a switcher, like, are you spending your time at 3 different grocery stores, or are you completely loyal to one? How often are you shopping a category? All that different information there. And what we ended up building using machine learning was these propensity to buy models. Like, what is the likelihood that you're going to go shop in a category over the next 45 days? Because there's no reason to give an offer to somebody if they're not even in market inside of a category. And what's the likelihood that they're going to go shop an individual advertiser? If you think about those two variables, now we're able to go optimize on whatever dollars are being given to us. Back to this, I talked about sloping before, right? If I know someone's more likely to go shop the category but less likely to go shop an individual advertiser, I might want to give them a higher incentive to go shop that individual advertiser because it might be worth bringing it over there. And if they're going to go spend more dollars inside the category than somebody else, again, maybe you want to go put more dollars that way. But if they're very likely to go shop one individual advertiser or merchant, maybe you don't need to give them an incentive at all. There's that famous quote, 50% of my advertising works. I just don't know which 50% that is. Like we were kind of in that, like, well, we can tell you a little bit, we can slope that where you don't understand where it's going to go. And those models became very, very powerful. It was an easy way to go talk to advertisers. We have this data. We're utilizing this data to go understand out of the, millions and millions of customers that we have access to. Here are the places that you want to go spend your money. And here's probably where you can reserve the money and not have to go put it into marketing. And that just kind of changed the conversation with what we're having with advertisers. Yes, we could do the full loop measurement and all of that, but the fact that you could optimize upfront as well helped that conversation move forward. And that's really what it is that advertisers wanted to understand. I'm taking this dollar and I am constantly optimizing. Again, you need to know what outcome you want. You want somebody to purchase who wasn't necessarily going to purchase before, or you want somebody to purchase who's going to spend more money than they were before because they're taking some of those dollars that they were going to spend at your competitors and move it over. So we could always measure that on that outcome, on the back end, but being able to actually have it modeled up front so we could kind of, again, tilt the scales in the favor of the advertiser became extremely, extremely powerful.
Well, Craig, I've got a question on all this. So it's a question that you're not prepared for. So
Love it.
if you stumble over this, I'll either edit it out or use some AI generated voice so that you look super intelligent and that you answered it correctly. I remember reading years ago about an anecdote from the kind of data industry about beer and nappies. And it was a supermarket case of the Target or someone like this. Target had the pregnancy one. I'll do that separately. Sending coupons to a girl who was not yet pregnant. They'd figured out that her purchase patterns indicated that she will soon be pregnant or is pregnant
Oh,
and
yes,
doesn't know.
yes,
There's another one
yes.
that's beer and nappies, and it's about guys going to the store on a Friday evening in an emergency to buy nappies, and they would pick up beer if those products were placed in a similar location. So it's like a retail one. My banana skin question for you is: do you remember any crazy correlation or data point between the category, the advertiser, that is one that you really remembered as to like slightly strange but intuitive once you had it explained?
We do. There was this extremely high correlation that on the day that you went and made a pet purchase, we have stores, PetSmart, Petco, all that, that you would also make a snack purchase as well. Like those two were just heavily linked, stood above and beyond, right? And so at some level, you kind of had your dog with you, or you had your pet with you when you were going to the store, and then you were also kind of buying something for yourself as well at the same time. There were other correlations as well. That we used to have these things called red box DVD rentals that you could put in front of large, big name stores like a Walmart, and you could sit there and show the correlations of who was going to go also make that purchase. But more importantly, like if you were going to the red box to go rent, where else were you shopping at that same time? Because that kind of became a conversation you could have with both Redbox and the retailer of like, hey, this is a symbiotic relationship. But that was the big one. The other one is for in the US, there's Black Friday. I know that's kind of growing outside of the US. You're welcome. And on Black Friday, everybody's first purchase was always is at a large retailer of some sort. The second purchase is at a fast food chain. It's to get breakfast. So they're standing in line, they're doing what it is that they need to go do. They make their purchase of a big screen TV, whatever it is, and then they calm down and they have a coffee, they have a breakfast sandwich inside of there. But that was only on Black Friday, because most of the times your first purchase is, the fast food piece, but you could actually see this very, very large in-store retailer purchase, and then that next purchase was, you're going to Starbucks, you're
I
going
get it.
somewhere
You need that coffee, don't you? After
you, you,
when you've
you,
snatched the television from the arms of a 90-year-old grandmother, you
well,
need to go and relax and.
well, more importantly, you're standing in line before anything else is open, right? So by the time you get that TV, you're starving, and off you go, right? And if you think about what to go do for that as an advertiser, right? You get that signal of a large retail purchase in store, and instantly what should be delivered is hey, it's Black Friday, come get yourself a coffee 10% off, or get yourself something to eat, get yourself some caffeine so that you can get back out there. It just becomes these things that you can go utilize because you see those patterns inside there. What one last anecdote is, in the recession 2008 to 2010 was not an analysis that we did or I had anything to get part of, but I remember reading analysis of the people with the lowest credit risk were the people who bought those felt covers that you put on the bottom of your chairs. Like they actually did an analysis of what it is that people bought in store, and the people who take the time to go put these things on the bottom of their chairs ended up having the lowest risk during the recession. No idea if that was true, there was an article on it, but I just thought, right, that's a great use of connecting two random things together. What are your buying habits and behaviors, and how does that represent what type of risk you are from a credit lending standpoint? Just love that connection. But that was, that was a more of a Capital One days type of analysis on credit risk than it was an advertising one. But
Well, Craig,
look,
Cap
yeah,
One,
go ahead.
you told me how in a prior segment how predictive analytics and data sciences kind of permeated through the company and began to be used in ops and all these other spaces. I worked at Cardlytics and I knew it was a true big data company due to the volumes of data involved. Were there any weird and wacky or novel uses of data sciences that you saw there?
Yeah, one of the things that we had to do was when you looked at the transaction data, something would come through and it would say, McDonald's, Walmart, the name of the actual retailer and merchant on there. And if you looked at that as a human, you could look at that and go, oh, that's McDonald. Like, it was very easy to go do that at a one-off basis, right? But we had, 8 to 10 billion of these records. So at some point, you had to start to go build machine learning to go make this happen. And our journey was there's something called expert systems. And expert systems, all that means is I'm an expert. I write a rule that says to go out and go do this, right? And then and a lot of people start off with expert systems, right? But at some point, it can't keep up if you think about the number of retailers that are out there. So you just have to add this intelligence on top of it. And it is amazing what can happen in the natural language processing and all these different fields. It starts to bleed a little bit over into AI. But at some point for machine learning or anything, when you're using data and data at scale, if you can figure out how to go replicate what an individual can do at a one line item level and then go figure out how to go scale that up, it becomes extremely powerful. And that's where we spent a lot of time figuring out, again, known outcome. We know what we want this to be clean to. We know we want this to be a retailer name that's accurate. But doing that across 8 billion plus records becomes extremely cumbersome unless you have the machine learning on top of it, right? So that's we had to hire different skill sets. This is when we really started to get into the data science and looking for those different skill sets. Like, look, when I graduated college, there was no data scientist degree. There wasn't anybody calling themselves data science, and this was roughly when people started calling themselves data scientists. And I got a little leery. I'm like, oh, anybody who's an analyst is just calling themselves a data scientist. But then you realize, like, oh, I can't solve things at scale, right? I can solve things in a small system, but to do this really, really at scale with speed and all that, like that's where the data scientist came in. And so now, rather than hiring hundreds of people to go do what we could kind of do on the low scale solution, like you didn't have to do that. You could handle the scale, you would have the machines going out there, and then you actually had these experts spend times making sure that the outcomes were correct so that the model could continue to learn and grow from that standpoint, supervised to use those terms. And again, another eye-opening moment. Like the eye-opening moment for me at Cardlytics was there was a lot of things I could do. There was not a lot of things I could do at scale with that much data. And I think about what advertisers and all these different folks have to go manage through. It's the scale piece where it starts to become difficult. You got to know what good questions to ask as a customer of what it is a data scientist is doing. You got to be very clear. I want more people to come in and buy that. Like you got to be super, super clear. And then at some point, it becomes so cumbersome that you have to let the data scientists kind of take over, but you have to hold true to knowing what the outcomes need to be. Because what I have found with data scientists is they start to fall in love with solving the engineering problem of handling the scale, and they lose sight a little bit of making sure that the answer is what was requested in the beginning. Not in a bad way, but again, the solving the big scale problem becomes an amazing piece of work. But you got to tie it back to yes, but is it answering the question that I originally wanted?
Well, look, Craig, I've got bad news and good news. The bad news is we have a time limit on this show.
Oh,
The good news is that I've been so captivated by what you're saying that I've stopped looking at the time. So we're going to just continue and we'll edit this together anyhow we like.